Deeper and deeper we go down this rabbit hole of the soul trap. Welcome everybody back to another video from Pink Tourmaline. This is where I'm feeling called right now in terms of my exploration. Keep going down this particular rabbit hole of the idea of Earth being a prison planet, of there being some sort of a soul trap around the planet. And throughout this period, if you're new to the channel, I started studying kind of new age spiritualism based around NDEs. Then I just started watching some David Icke material, which I had watched years ago. I knew about David Icke years ago, but I didn't take it so seriously when I first learned of him. I was more into the Stephen Greer stuff, and the David Icke stuff just seemed too wild to me. And then I came back to David Icke because of the Epstein files, and I was like, holy smokes, like some of the stuff he was talking about back in the day that seemed outlandish is actually seems to be true. And so we go down the rabbit hole, and he actually throws out the idea of NDEs, which was shocking to me, but now I seem to be coming in line with those same ideas. And we'll see where I go from here. As I mentioned multiple times on this channel, my aim is to always be objective and open-minded as possible, and not to get too stuck in the mud in any particular theory, and always be willing to change course as I go and learn more. But this is where I'm at right now. And I'm also getting great comments in the comment section. Thank you, everybody, for the amazing comments and the amazing references. I've been trying to look up everything that people have been recommending. I've been trying to buy the books that people have been suggesting. I have a huge stack of books to read. But in this particular video, I want to give a shout out to Colin Crisp 1592, because he said in the comment, he gave a very nice comment, but one of the things he mentioned is, have you heard of Linda Moulton Howe, if I'm pronouncing that name right? And I had not. Well, actually, I did come across a video when I first realized who she was. I had watched a video of hers previously, but I didn't watch it in its entirety. So now I've come back and I've actually found something where I may have actually stumbled upon this video, but I didn't fully listen to it the first time, where she talks about this idea of the soul trap once again, and it's via an interview of another gentleman. So we're going to get into it right now. But again, thank you, Colin Chris. Really appreciate that. So who is Linda Moulton Howe, if you have not heard of her? She's an American investigative journalist, documentary filmmaker, writer, best known for her work on UFOs, cattle mutilation cases, crop circles, and other unexplained phenomena. It's interesting that all the stuff that I explored about extraterrestrials back starting in 2014 seems to be tied in. Like, I didn't think it was tied in. I thought it was a separate domain from the near-death experiences and spirituality, but now it seems to all be wrapped together, which is wild. But then it's kind of cool that I did learn about that stuff back in the day, because it's not jarring to me to learn about it. I'm like, yeah, I've already bought into this stuff a decade ago. But yeah, it's super crazy how it all mixes together. She earned a master's degree in communication from Stanford and began her career producing environmental and science-related documentaries before becoming widely known through her reporting on paranormal and extraterrestrial subjects. Over the years, she has hosted and produced Earth Files and has remained prominent voice in alternative research media, especially in discussions around UFO disclosure and related mysteries. But yeah, this is still also something that's a whole process to get my head around, because I had my time exploring extraterrestrials to a certain degree and really enjoyed it. But then now I'm like, okay, well, now I'm into this. Now I'm into a bigger question of what's our consciousness all about? What's our soul or our ISB? And where does that go? Because that's an even bigger, broader question. Forget about what's happening in the physical and material world with all these ETs. Well, now it seems that they're intermingled. They actually, one is part of the other, if we do buy into this idea of the prison planet and the soul trap. Because apparently, according to these testimonies and other things from Brett Stewart, other things from a gentleman that I showed a video of yesterday, that these ETs actually, the theory is, from remote viewing from a number of sources, that these ETs actually have technology to capture our consciousness, our essence, our energy, which is wild, and keeping us in this reincarnation loop. So it's just so much information. It all seems to blend together, and perhaps these spiritual ideas from the Gnostics of archons is simply a representation of not spiritual entities per se, but maybe interdimensional or extraterrestrial beings. Like, this is so much. This is just so much to handle, but I'm trying my best to get through it. All right, without further ado, let's get to this amazing interview from Linda Moulton Howe, which again matches up with that long video I did on the prison planet from Brett Stewart matches up with stuff from David Icke, matches up with the other gentleman, I'm blanking on his name, that I did a video about yesterday that also has a team of remote viewers and also talks about very similar ideas, that there is this large mechanical device that's obviously invisible to be a visible light, but that is surrounding Earth and that is causing us to kind of be recycled over and over. So first of all, we're going to get a little introduction into this device they're calling the installation. Check this out.
There is a certain installation that's been put over Earth in order to lower the potentials of the evolution of humankind. And that is a very complex situation, because that is responsible for all the issues and disbalances that we experience right now and on this planet. And it comes along with technology that's being used in order to sort of create some chaos. It's coming down to...
Like what technology would be creating chaos?
What has been reported is that there are chemicals being used, but also frequencies, and also psionic frequencies in order to,
So this is important. When he talks about the chemicals and the frequencies, if you remember in the remote viewing team that Brett Stewart was a part of, there was 4 remote viewers. They talked about chemicals being used, or one of the remote viewers at least, he shared testimony. Go back and watch that video if you don't remember. He talks about this idea of a lot of chemicals being used. So that matches up with this account and with this testimony, and also these other processes as well, maybe working. It's not just chemicals in isolation. But then if you think about the installation, when he's talking about how it might be creating some of the chaos on the planet, I wonder if this is maybe it is in reference to implanting negative ideas or feelings or things like that. But I also wonder if it has something to do with this installation being responsible for the memory wipes as we enter and re-enter each of our subsequent lives and having no memory of previous lives. So I wonder if just by virtue of these memory wipes happening from life to life to life, that's also keeping us in a state of chaos, because our consciousness is being shut off, it's being curtailed, and that is substantially diminishing our ability to really understand what's going on, to really truly learn and grow. We're told in the NDEs that we're learning and growing with each life and with each incarnation, but perhaps that's potentially not true. That is a misrepresentation of what's happening. That's what should be happening, but perhaps it's not correctly happening, once again, because of the installation and the memory issues that we have.
Bring Earth into a certain lower frequency, a lower energetic realm, in order to slow down the process of evolution on this planet.
What would be an example of what a human would experience if they were the target of, let's say, the installations? We want to curtail you. We want to stop you. Would it be frequencies they would hear in the ears and that would cause migraines, or what? How would it manifest?
For example, depression. That would be something. What we have right now, right here in this installation, which is being removed right now, is
it's being removed.
It's being removed, right?
By
inside and outside forces. They needed time to understand what's happening on this planet, because a lot of what is inside of this installation is quite subtle and might seem as if it has evolved naturally, but it didn't. We have seen that there have been temporal modification, meaning an outside force has, influenced certain points of human history over time in a negative way, but made it look like a natural occurring thing.
It's wild. And the naturally occurring part is important in terms of the intervention or interference of other, I guess, like ETs or entities or whatever, in terms of helping us. Because I think seems to be this overarching rule by a lot of these species or entities that free will must be respected. And this is talked about by many of these folks, of these experts in this arena, that free will ultimately, if we have chosen to go down a particular path, whether it be positive or negative, it must be allowed if that is where our free will takes us. So that's why he's saying, I believe anyways, that if the installation was perceived to be a naturally occurring phenomenon or something that we installed ourselves, or if something that we co-signed on, which is another theory that was brought up in the video yesterday, that there was agreement signed and at least factions of people on the planet agree to this installation. If that tends to be the case, then these benevolent ETs or these other forces will not intervene out of respect for free will. So now we're going to talk a little bit more about what this installation does in a little bit more detail. This is a lengthier clip, if I'm not mistaken. This might be the short one or the long one. I can't remember, but this might be the long one. It keeps humans in it. Oh, this might be the very short of it. I can't remember. Anyways, we're going to get into it. But the idea is this installation keeps us in a miserable reality.
What we need to understand is the bigger picture, how that works. It kind of keeps humans inside of a miserable reality, and it's a perpetuating
Yeah.
and self-repeating process over time. So it's very, very unlikely that humanity, without removing the installation, would be able to.
All right. So we need to remove this installation. Now, he said in the previous clip something along the lines of the installation being taken down or being removed. I have not heard of this anywhere else. I'm fascinated by that. That's uplifting, because this whole idea of the installation or the system or this grid is a pretty scary thought, that we're just kind of powerless, and that's why we keep reincarnating over and over and over. Okay, but now we're going to get into who has the motive to do this. And we're going to hear of ETs that David Icke has been talking about for a long time, got him a lot of ridicule for a long time, but it's what David Icke's been saying for forever. And on top of that, it also corresponds with things that Bob Monroe talked about during a lot of his not astral projections, excuse me, remote viewing experiences. A lot of the things that he did at the Monroe Institute, talking about the crocodiles. I think you know what I'm talking about, but let's let it play.
But how did it get into place? Who has the specific motive to want to curtail us?
The species that has been, part of talks is reptilian, yes.
Okay, so it is the reptilians. Again, David Icke got a lot of flack for this back in the day, but this is who they're saying. And perhaps when we talk about the archons and Gnosticism, it is in fact, apparently, these reptilian entities, whether I believe they are described as biological entities, perhaps interdimensional, perhaps like highly technologically advanced, but essentially these negative entities.
Are the reptiles, are there intelligences that are actually trying to persuade souls in the afterlife to go a wrong direction that would slow them down even before they are reincarnated?
Just the same way as there are species and forces that guide people in a positive way in the afterlife, there's also a very small number of species that try to do the direct opposite. But luckily for every one of us, the amount of species that do it very positively and benevolent is way bigger. We're talking about 99 to 1% at the level 4 stage. And the best thing every one of us can do is either you have the capabilities and capacities to understand your role in the universe, and you have a level 4 consciousness, understanding of how everything works, then you can, design your own afterlife, so to speak.
And learn how to reject the negative as soon as you feel it.
100%. Either you have the level of consciousness in order to know that you can create your own worlds in the afterlife and just go there. Whatever idea you have, it's possible. Or you rely on the natural forces of the universe and maybe get into contact with them in a way that you just make a willful decision to say, I would love to receive help for the transition. that is something that the universe heavily relies on. And it's just a one very simple sentence that can be repeated over a lifetime in order to make clear for the universe that my transition has to be smooth, gentle, and
what's so cool, I want to say a couple of things, a couple of amazing, uplifting things. Number one, this idea, because I've heard this actually before years ago, that the number of positives outweigh the negative entities and the negative forces by like 99-1, an incredible ratio. That's beautiful and that's amazing. And I hope it's true. That's one thing. Number two, he's talking about this idea of getting in contact, maybe through astral projections, maybe through meditation. I don't know, but willing the escape, willing yourself to be free of this system. But again, see, this goes back to the idea of the power of free will. And ultimately, it reiterates this message, I believe, that I keep feeling over and over, is that ultimately we have the control within ourselves, all of us, all entities, all ISBs, all souls. We ultimately have that control. We just don't realize it. We've been manipulated and confused via the NDEs, via this AI system, via the grid, that we are powerless, that we don't have control. But if what he's saying is true, I believe that we do, in fact, ultimately have control. And we just got to believe in that. We have to love ourselves perhaps enough. Coming back to pink tourmaline, the entire the representative crystal of this channel, that we have to love ourselves and believe in ourselves enough to essentially liberate ourselves. And, if this is indeed true, then this is exactly what I want to do on this planet, in this life, is to help people wake up and realize that they have this power, that all they need to do is love themselves. All they need to do is exercise their free will. And that's really inspiring to me. I want to say one last thing about Linda Moulton Howe. I really hope I'm pronouncing her name correctly, but man, like, just watching her here, I'm so glad that she was recommended to me, because I get such a positive vibe, like a beautiful aura from her. And call it what you will if you want to laugh at that, but I've just said I'm going to trust my instinct way more for my life going forward, and my intuition, and that's what I'm picking up. I just get like a really positive, awesome aura from her, and so I'm just really glad to have stumbled upon her, and I want to check out more of her interviews. Last thing, last video. Once again, we come back full circle to this idea. It's reiterated one more time, all about free will.
And that's the installation.
That is the installation. It's been covered in a way that it looks like something that occurred naturally, but it's not. It's something that's been cloaked in a way so that it looks like something that occurred naturally. And that makes a big difference to other species. So there's a big difference to their own reaction of something, and to their own will to interfere with something. If the situation is A, naturally occurring, if it's B, something that the specific species has done willingly to itself, then it's a free will decision. No one's going to interfere with that. Or the third option is some outside force has planted something into it that is artificially, designed in order to bring chaos. The third option is something where most species that are proactive on these things would say we need to interfere on that. But if it's just looking as if it was one of the two first options, then they would hesitate in order to, come for help.
But it still seems strange that our allies, spiritually, physically, other intelligences, would even allow anything like the installation to be trying to slow us down.
And I agree, except for coming back to this idea of free will. If we have agreed to it, or we imagine potentially we have elected officials, we willingly elect people to represent us, and those people, as is mentioned in some of these other accounts, or these other remote viewing experts that have traversed time and seen what's happened, and this is what they're claiming anyways. If we have elected bodies and elected officials, and they make the decision on behalf of us after our free will decision to elect them, then perhaps that's a binding agreement. And that could also be an explanation for why they don't intervene in what's going on. Now, again, I'm totally speculating and just theorizing here, but I do feel like I keep seeing this theme over and over and over, the importance of free will. You even hear it in this book that I'm reading right now by William Bowman about astral projection, the importance of thought and how things react so instantaneously in the astral to your thoughts and to your mind and what you're thinking and what you're asking for. So I feel like there's something here, something very important about free will that we are maybe ultimately, we don't realize it, but we probably are the masters of our own destiny. You know, the last thing I'll say too is when we hear about these NDEs, and you even read some of these amazing books about a lot of these accounts of NDEs, when we think about the difficulties of life and why maybe that is allowed to happen, we see over and over this idea that we agree ahead of time to our parents, to our families, to this life that we're leading, the challenges that we're going to face. Like all of that is agreed upon ahead of time. At least that's what's given in all these accounts. So when we feel so powerless in this life, sure, maybe that's how we feel because our memories have been wiped and we don't remember what we agreed to. But it's just a mirage. I think it's just a way to manipulate us once again. We agree to something, then our memories are wiped, and then we're thrown into it. We forget we agreed, and we're like, oh my God, this world is so crazy. But you know, maybe the whole trick of it is that we have the power from the get-go. We just are made to forget and we're made to be confused. And that's a beautiful thing if that's the case. Anyways, that's all I got for you guys on this video. I thought it was super cool. Once again, thank you for the recommendation of Linda Moulton Howe, and I will definitely be checking out more videos from her, hopefully on this topic, but we'll see where this journey takes us. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and let me know if you have any other recommendations of things that you want me to look at. Please, 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 because you guys are ultimately driving this channel right now. That's really what's going down. Thank you guys so much for joining. We'll see you in the next video. Take it easy.